The Flip shop is gone. This is crazy. And I actually made a lot of money on it. Some of its numbers are crazy. If you're unfamiliar with Flip, here it is. 16.5 million people joined it. 4.6 million creators. 10 million videos posted. 5 billion video views. 22 billion post engagements. 12,000 active brands on the platform. $13.4 million paid to creators, and $375 million in sales for brands. Now, those are impressive numbers. And I'm gonna talk about a little bit about my experience. First off, I joined Flip last year, around February or March. Was invited to the app by another creator. I joined, at the time, a creator group of folks that joined as creators, because prior to that, Flip was pretty much your average everyday person. It was kind of like HSN, Home Shopping Network, mixed with TikTok. So you bought a product on there and then you did a review on it, genuine review on it, immediately after purchasing it. And so from that, you got a lot of benefits, such as free dollar, more money to spend towards other gifts. There was a tiered system and things like that. I won't get into that. I have done some YouTube videos on it and I'll link it above. For instance, every time I spent $200, I got $250, I got $1,000 of free gifts, which is crazy. And this isn't throwaway gifts and things like that. It's other stuff that's on the platform. So spend $250, get $1,000 for making genuine reviews, which is why I liked it. It was gear reviews. You buy a product, you make a review on it instantly without all of the brand stuff and blah, blah, blah. No brands and included. So what happened? What happened to the app? What happened to the platform? They did not put out a statement about what happened, but I'm gonna share what I think happened with the app. From the beginning, it used to be about genuine reviews and genuine people, everyday folks jumping on the app and making reviews about these products that they're purchasing. And that was a good part. But of course, it's a business, so it had to scale and it had to grow. And as it started growing, there started to be newer things that some people liked and some people didn't. So every time there was a major change, an older regime, if you will, was kind of upset. For instance, when I joined as a experienced content creator, it was definitely a difference between our videos and the folks that were on there prior that was just your average everyday folks, understandably. And they did not like when we hit the platform. Now fast forward about 6 months and things had kind of kumbaya and things had gotten good, and they enjoyed being on the platform with us because we kind of shared tips on how to make content and different things like that to get more views and to engage. Boom. Now TikTok ban went in full effect, and the platform was not ready for that. When I mean TikTok ban went into effect, they said over 225,000 people a day was joining Flip. And at the time, Flip had to limit its capacity. It had to limit its server. If you're familiar with IT, when people are on a website, there has to be enough storage space, for lack of better terms, in order to house the amount of people that are on that website at any given time. So places like eBay and Amazon and Home Depot apps and things like that, millions of people are on those apps every second of the day, right? Places like Flip was not used to that type of traffic, and they found themselves in a situation where their servers couldn't keep up with the amount of people that was on the website or platform at any given time, and it would completely just get slow. It would bog down, like videos were freezing, and so they started limiting the amount of people that were on the platform. And that's a good problem to have as a business. It sucks for the user's experience, right? But it's a good problem to have because you're now in a situation where if you can catch up to demand, your revenue is going to spike. It's going to pop up. It's going to go crazy, right? Around that time, though, however, they made a change to the user's experience, meaning that it took more views to make money. And we'll get to that in a second, because that is really the thing that made them successful. It took more views to make money, but also you had a lot of people coming over from TikTok with a different style of content. And that, in my opinion, is when the user experience started to go down. And it's nothing against any of the TikTok or anything like that, but the content was unregulated. And that means a lot of it, and I won't say all of it and things like that, but from my experience on my timeline, a lot of it was screen grabs and screen captures of other people's content, of movies and, and different things like that just being reposted. And there wasn't a lot of scrutiny, or at least there may have been behind the scenes, but from my point of view, there wasn't a lot of control over what was happening on the app. Lastly, this was the final thing. They introduced debate feature. Now, debates is something that can be good if people understand how to debate respectfully and share opinions and things like that. But debates became arguments, and it became more about who could say the most controversial thing to get the most engagement, and then that thing would go viral, for lack of better terms, on the app. It was less about, polite banter or even, coarse banter respectfully, and things like that. It became more about who could say the wildest stuff, and the content just kind of plummeted. Eventually, it was just flat out nudity, like flat out uncontrolled nudity. Like you could basically get on and see a woman's body and she's pulling up the blah, blah, blah and things like that. And it was just crazy to see something like that on an app that was for adults, because you had to be 18, or at least they expected you to be 18, but was open platform, so it was free to underage, so you could see that. I mean, there's other apps that are open to people like that too, but on a shopping commerce, you just don't expect, you don't see that on TikTok, you don't see that on Instagram, you don't see that on Facebook, you definitely don't see it on YouTube. Now the business side of it is what most likely was the issue. I mentioned earlier that spending $250, I could get $1,000 worth of products. And so they had this thing called On the House. On the House was basically a tiered system. The more views you got, the more engagement you got, and the larger your platform, the more you got per dollar spent. So it started with like 50 cents per dollar, dollar per dollar, $2, and then eventually $4, which was like that top tier, which I was on. But a lot of people speculated and believed that that was a model that was not able to be sustained. And that's more likely what happened. I think, in my personal opinion, I think it is a combination of a unsustainable financial model on top of the amount of people that flocked to the app that was unexpected, because the more people, the more stuff you're giving out for free, right? And so I think that exponential growth when the TikTok ban happened was too much for the financial thing. But personally, I also think things like PII being shared when you give out gifts, because you could buy gifts for people and send it and you would get their information in return. So if you wanted to find somebody's address, you send them a gift and you get their address. Talked about on the platform as a really serious red flag. The nudity and different things like that down the stretch that was uncontrolled, like you could not control the amount. Like I literally would open my timeline and you would just see cheeks, just cheeks going at you with nothing in between, right? And so that was, starting to happen on the app consistently. And then the last thing I think was copyright infringement. Copyright infringement, like I said, because the screen captures and just reposting other people's content without even being tied to that content, or even giving a free use editorial of why that content is, good or bad or different things like that, response type, channel. It was just flat out screen grab, post. And then people were getting paid for stuff like that. So I think those three things, copyright infringement, nudity and obscene things that could not be controlled, and things like compliance issues with PII. I think those are probably the real reasons why it shut down, and there may be lawsuits and things like that in the future. I'm speculating, like I'm way out there with that, right? That's not factual, I don't know. But to close this out, let's just talk about some of the benchmarks or some of the data. The app was really good. Flip launched in 2019 as a social commerce platform. By 2023, 2 million active users and had raised $100 million in venture capital. Refer a friend, get $130 for friends that join. Some creators earn $5,000 to $10,000 a month, but I personally know folks that I chatted with, talked with, joined a community with that were earning $12,000 to $15,000 every single month. 250,000 new users per day. So I was a little short, 2025 I said, but 250,000 users a day. 20-fold increase in installs. Average user time jumped from 10 minutes to 35 minutes a day. That is a huge jump in usage. If you're familiar with product management, that is a huge jump. I mean, percentages out the wazoo. By 2025, the platform was onboarding 700 brands in a single month and hosted at least 5,000 brands per month. And then Flips announced a creator equity fund worth $100 million and said it had raised a total of $240 million. What that fund was, if you posted a certain amount of videos per day, per month, eventually after a 5-year period, you would get a percentage of that $240 million. I signed an agreement that if I continued with those activities, I would get those funds, but if you quit at any time, there was no penalty. Los Angeles Times said, Flips referral system as a bounty hunt where contacts' names were listed with cash value. Some friends were only worth $25. User earned money for inviting others, leaving comments, or simply swiping through the feed, paying people to use the app, especially against giants like TikTok Shop app. That is true. If your contacts were a part of the app, you could give them, visibility to your contacts just like any other app. They would basically tell you per contact how much money it was worth if you referred that particular person, which was weird because that means they had to have some type of data, right? And so that was weird. Founding valuation, Flip raised $144 million in 2024 at $1.5 billion valuation. This thing was worth over $1 billion, and now it's shut down in less than a year. The official shutdown was on August 29, 2025, and it just basically said, thank you for making Flip real. We are saddened to share that Flip has shut down. And from the start, our mission was to build a social platform that gave everyone a voice, first through authentic product reviews, then with genuine creator videos, and finally through unfiltered debates that created a space for real conversation online. Thank you to everyone who was part of this journey. If you are a brand or creator with an outstanding balance, please email partners@flipshop.com. That is a cautionary tale that you have to make calculated decisions where you spend your time, your effort, and where ultimately you put your future. TikTok is definitely something that it's stable at the moment, but it's something that is a little nerve-wracking due to the bans. Instagram, owned by Facebook Meta, I think it's pretty stable at this point, and in fact, it gives out the highest payouts based on views and things like that. YouTube, part of Google, it always feels like home coming back to here, and definitely something that is stable. So in closing, I would say content creators, always stay vigilant of where you're spending your time. Always pay attention to signs. Don't just be a part of the platform. Understand the platform, study and research the platform, and be vigilant, because sometimes your career is on the line, just like with Flip. But if you're new to the channel, enjoy today's content, consider subscribing, joining that cozy coalition below. But as always, stay cozy in that crazy world, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.